All right, welcome back to the Well-Oiled Operations Podcast. Now, if you are listening to this episode, but you didn't hear last week's, this is a part two to a part one from last week. We are diving in deep to onboarding. Onboarding your team for boosting retention. What does this look like? How do we get people to retain? How do we get them to stay? How do we get them to love their job so much and perform at such a high level? We want to retain them, right? It's not just like them wanting to stay. We want them to stay too. So if you didn't catch part one, go back, listen to that first before we dive into today's. Today's is going to be all about how do we make this be really effective? How do we know if it's working? How do we get feedback from our team? Like, how do we get that information? And then we're going to talk about common pitfalls to avoid. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Let's jump into what I call continuous feedback. So when I say onboarding, this isn't just like, 90 days, done. It's over. We're good, right? Continuous feedback never stops. It is not just a 30, 60, 90-day situation, right? It is crucial in the beginning. But then as soon as somebody's up and ramped up, right? From there, I'm still having their manager meet one-on-one every week. So I really want to make sure you understand like the continuous feedback and support never goes away. I know it sounds like a lot. I know it sounds like, oh my goodness, I don't have time to do this, right? But I will tell you, it will accelerate their learning. Okay. Here's a great example. I once had a salesperson come into the company, and I once read that if a salesperson doesn't close, a salesperson really takes like maybe 10 calls to close. Okay. You really want to give them like 10 calls under their belt before you really judge the situation. So I took that and I completely read it wrong and I did it wrong. And I let them take 10 calls. And then I watched a horrible call that I was like, wow, this is absolutely awful. And I'm kind of mortified, right? And I have nobody to blame but myself because I watched the 10th call. I could have stopped that on the first call, right? This just shows you how new I was to that process. So now I say to the team, the second you have your first real live human, right? Immediately send me that video. And I give feedback on that first call. And do you know what's crazy? Is the number of team members that will actually close the second call, because the first call, they got the feedback they needed to make the change and they can make the change that quickly. Now, not all of them, but I will tell you, I will say right now, our team sells faster onboarding when we are auditing immediately versus waiting a certain time, right? So it should accelerate their learning. They'll leave those mistakes behind. So don't wait too long before you start auditing and inspecting, okay? It will improve their performance, right? So regular check-ins, feedback sessions, you guys, they want it. I can't tell you how many managers have said to me, I don't really think they like them. They're not really into it. They actually said it's okay if we just miss next week, right? So we just took them off the calendar. Or the manager says, I've been way too busy. I had to remove them. I just don't have the time to do that. You guys, not acceptable. Not acceptable. It's one of those things I have to check in every few years because I'll say to somebody, you need to be doing these. And then they do it. And then like a year later, they've stopped for whatever reason, right? Having these regular check-ins will improve the team and department's performance. If your team isn't hitting KPIs, you should be coaching them on those regular check-ins. That's what that's for, okay? It will also enhance engagement. So if you're in a group call, or you're in a room and there's 10 people and the owner says, any ideas or suggestions or any feedback you want to give me? Do you know how many people would like to say something but are afraid to say something? They just don't do well on group calls, right? Now, on a one-on-one, there's no way of not talking. As the person in charge, it's like, okay, so what questions do you have from last week? Oh, none. Okay, cool. So you're a customer success manager. Who is a client that isn't getting results that should be? They're going to have an answer. Okay, cool. Let's coach on that, right? Do you see how I can help pull out that engagement by asking the right questions and getting them in an environment where they feel safe one-on-one versus in a group? It's going to be massive, massive, massive. Okay. So the next thing is truly clarification of expectations and repeating yourself over and over. Okay. So I'll say, hey guys, hey guys, it's in the orientation. Here's our dress code. We are a business casual company. Okay. please just look put together. You don't need to be fancy. You don't need to be wearing like a blazer or business like suit. You know, just be business casual. Okay, cool. And then 3 weeks later, the sweatshirt comes out. It's going back and just reminding them, hey, so just so you know, right? And I even had to say in a call once, you might see me hair pulled back, no makeup, sweatshirt right now. But that is because I am not client facing today. There are no clients that are going to see me. So don't confuse me showing up like this as it's okay for you to show up like this. If you truly didn't have any client calls today, that is a different story. But the people I was talking to all had client calls, right? So just like clarification, like, well, why does Stacy get to show up on a Tuesday looking like that and I don't? Because I'm not talking to people that are going to be judging my appearance, right? Like we do judge. Like if I tell you, hey, we've got these amazing business consultants and they show up like they just finished a workout or they rolled out of bed, you might be like, is this really right? You're going to start questioning it. So it's important. And then the next piece is retention. So I actually just hired somebody. I did the orientation and we wrapped up at the hour mark. And the guy says to me, you've officially trained me more than the company I just left of over a year. And he was like, I am so blown away and I am already really excited to work here because I can just tell this is going to be different. Right. And one of the reasons he left was because he wasn't getting that support. He wasn't getting their feedback. He didn't feel like they cared as much. Right. And he was looking for something different. All right. Next up, fostering social connections. So, what does that mean? All right, I've said it again. I'm going to say it again. Creating a sense of belonging. You want people to think, I love this place. They are my family. I fit in here. I feel like I belong, right? So, we've talked about the buddy or mentor programs. That can be in the first 90 days. That can just be for onboarding. That could be permanent. Like you could always either decide who's like an experienced person, right? And who's the newbie? And at what month or year does a newbie turn into an experienced person that gives back to the next person, right? These are all things to be considering, okay? The team building activities. Are you meeting in person and virtual? I highly recommend we do both, no matter what business you have. So my brick and mortar meets in person, of course, and they meet virtually. My online business meets virtual all the time and meets in person. So tomorrow, as I'm recording this, tomorrow, my entire customer success team is coming to my home. And we're flying people in that don't live here, right? So we really, really believe in both in person and virtual, okay? We want our remote people to see each other like every 4 months, not longer than that. It's just too long. So about every 4 months, we're trying to make sure we're doing something together, okay? And then really creating open communication channels. You might think, I'm very open. I always ask for their ideas. I always ask for their opinions, but they're quiet. That's not my problem. It is your problem. If they don't feel comfortable sharing, if they don't have ideas, it could be that they're afraid to share. So, what do you need to do to make it be an anonymous survey or a one-on-one, right? What do you need to do to get them more comfortable and to set the tone? Hey, guess what? Everybody here is a contributing member. I don't want to hear that you have no ideas. I'm actually paying you to bring your ideas. So tomorrow we're going to have a one-on-one and I want to hear your best 3 ideas you've got. All of a sudden they're like, oh, she actually wants my opinion. She wants to hear from me. Okay. So these are things you should be thinking about. Shared experiences, right? So this could be putting people together in projects, in challenges, in achievements, right? Gamification is huge. So even if you said, okay, we're going to do a little fun activity this week. These 3, you guys are team 1, right? These guys, your team 2. One of our big shows we love here is Survivor. We watch it as a family and we're obsessed. Okay. And when Survivor gets to a certain point, you become individuals. You're not on a team anymore. But some of their challenges, they make those individuals partner up with these people. So all of a sudden, they were once competitors and like trying to beat each other. And now the 4 of them are on a mission to get that reward, right? How can you stop for just a moment, right? This individual movement and progress and partner them up and say, okay, here's what we're going to do, right? So here's an example. You could say, this week, we're on a mission to get Google reviews. I'm going to partner you guys up in 2 teams. So we've got team A And we've got team B. I want you guys to name yourself, right? Like do something fun. You're going to pick a name, you're going to cheer each other on, and the winning team is going to get X. What is their reward? What are they going to get if they win? What's nice is some people don't really care about that kind of stuff. And they're like, okay, we're doing one of these challenges, whatever, right? It's a whole different game when 3 other people are relying on you and they're cheering you on and they're motivating you and they're trying to get you to move, right? So this is really, really important and can be very, very fun with the team. Okay. We actually just did something similar to this where like the challenge, the idea. And then tomorrow, while they're here in person, we are announcing the winning team, the winner overall, and we got some fun prizes. And it just makes it fun and different and exciting. And they love it. They love it. Okay, so that's big. Next would be diversity and inclusion initiatives. Okay. This is really important that you are explaining to your team your opinion, what you stand for, right? Promoting it in the workplace, right? Making sure all team members are feeling valued, they're feeling respective, that we really want to embrace diversity of backgrounds, of perspectives, right? Of age, of race, of sex, right? And we're trying to use those ideas to create more of an inclusive environment. So we don't just want the ideas from the one girl with the ideas, right? We really want to hear, well, what's your opinion? Tell me more. Why do you think that? We really, really want them to know that, well, I'm a little different in the group. I don't know if they want my opinion. We want your opinion. Like we want to hear all sides. So this is a huge one. And guys, they're not going to assume you feel this way. Or the one social media post you posted about your values or what you are standing for. Maybe they saw it, maybe they didn't, but one social media post does not make like that stance, right? So really letting them know and reminding them. And then last, regular check-ins. And I've already touched on this, but encouraging your managers and your team leaders, not just encouraging, requiring, right? It is one-on-one. Okay. Absolutely one-on-one. And then also group department meetings as well. So we do a group meeting and then we do individual meetings. Okay. And the reason why I still do group is because people bouncing ideas off of each other are really, really valuable. But then at the same time, some people may not speak up, or the loudest person's kind of winning the conversation, but the quiet person has a really great idea and she's just kind of nervous to share. So it's a great place to provide support, to address concerns, and then really celebrate achievements. So one thing I didn't say is you can negative comments, criticism is typically done one-on-one. Positives, always in the group. Right. Now, I think it's good to still acknowledge them one-on-one. Like, hey, I know I acknowledge you in the group, but I just have to say, you are crushing it. Okay. Complimenting people goes such a long way. I just had this experience. I don't want to get too many details away because I'm projecting the other person on the other side. Somebody said something to somebody, gave a compliment, and she had been working at this place for maybe like 5 years. And she tears up and she says, like, thank you. I'm not used to receiving compliments. In fact, I don't think that the boss, right, the owner, I don't think she had ever complimented me ever, because all she did was look at what's wrong this week. What do I need to fix this week? So she, even though she probably really liked her and thought she was a great employee, she was like the leader of the company, this girl, even though that probably was the intention, that's not how this person was feeling, right? So you've got to celebrate them and talk about them publicly, right? Negative stuff, no, absolutely not. Okay. So this is huge. Now I want to dive into measuring the success of your onboarding program. When you put things into play, you might go, oh, Stacey, I tried this. It didn't work. You were wrong, right? So easy to be like, nope, didn't work. We tried that onboarding thing. Yep, nope, didn't. Okay. It would be impossible for an onboarding program to not actually work. Now, I will say this, it can be ineffective, and that is what didn't work. But an actual true onboarding program does work, right? So let's just really quickly talk about, how do I know if my onboarding is effective, if it's working? Am I really getting them up and running as fast as possible? Okay, so here are a couple 5 ways you could do this. Number 1, surveys. Conduct a survey to gather feedback from your new hires. Like, just flat out ask them about their onboarding experience. I have 2 people onboarding right now with a different manager. And I just did a quick 15-minute check-in with each person. And I said, hey, so how's it going? Fill me in. The call wasn't recorded. I wanted them to feel very safe. I said, I'm not going to share anything with your manager. I just want to hear, how it's going and what your experience has been like the first 2 weeks. And they raved. They were like, she's amazing. It's Darren that was doing this. So like, Darren's phenomenal. I feel very supportive. She's so helpful. I never feel like I'm bugging her, even though I would have thought I was bugging her. She like really reassures me, right? And that made me feel really good to know they feel supportive. They have their plan. They're liking their manager. It's working, right? So that for me, right, is just like a quick, it could have been a survey, could have been a Google form, right? I wouldn't necessarily say it's anonymous. How many people are you technically onboarding? You'd probably figure it out, but just to say, hey, this is a check-in. It's a private thing. Your manager's not going to see it. This is just for me, the owner, to figure out, is something missing here? How can we better support you? Okay, that's huge. Number two, retention metrics. So track those metrics, turnover, people departing fast, right? If you've got somebody quitting at 3 months or 6 months, right? What's going on here? I don't want anybody quitting at 3 months or 6 months, right? Now, sometimes we do have that happen where it's like somebody actually just quit and she said, it was a different role for me. I was kind of hoping, I thought this was going to be very different and it's not. And if you have anything more in this kind of department, I would be in, but I'm not really cut out for this role. Okay. That isn't really something that I think onboarding would have fixed, right? Unfortunately, she didn't really understand the job and a few weeks in realized like, this isn't for me. Now, could I do something better in the interview process to make sure that doesn't happen? Yes, but I don't think it was an onboarding problem, right? But the goal is watch what's happening. Why are people leaving you? Okay. Number three, performance evaluations. So evaluate the performance of the new hire after like the 30-day, 60-day, 90-day. Assess their ability to meet their job expectations, right? Where are you hoping they are in 90 days? And then where do they actually end up? And don't be mad at them. Ask yourself what's happening in the onboarding process that I'm not setting them up for success, right? Too many managers are blaming the people like, oh, yeah, she's just not good. She's kind of slow. She's kind of this. It's like, okay, how have you coached her on becoming faster? Oh, wait, you haven't? Okay. Well, that is your job as a manager and as a leader, right? This is huge. Number four, define your key performance indicators, right? We call those KPIs, fancy word for metrics, right? Define them related to onboarding. So we have KPIs for every single role. Okay. So if you're in well-oiled, you have a document with every one of our 3 to 5 KPIs for every single role in our company. Okay. Now, those are where we want them to be once they're up and running. We have separate KPIs at the 30-day mark, at the 60-day mark, and at the 90-day mark, right? Maybe there's this one metric we track and she's trying to get 5 of those every week. Okay. Well, maybe in first 30 days, I'm expecting 1. And then maybe month 2, I'm hoping she gets it up to 2 to 3, right? And then month 3, she gets it from 3 to 4. And then at that 90-day mark, I hope she's at 5, right? So don't forget, like they're not going to go from like 0 to 100 in week 1. You've got to give them some time and some ramp up and set that expectation. And then the last piece is continuous feedback and really like that adaptation, right? Establishing a culture of we are driven people, we are hungry people, we are growth minded, we are always trying to outdo ourselves, right? So I am looking for somebody who wants to grow, who is trying to outdo last year's version of themselves. Like, what are some goals you have this year for the new year, right? And if they're like, oh, I don't set goals, or oh, they haven't really thought about it, or like those are not our people. Our people on our team come driven. They come hungry. They want to perform better and better and better, right? And when you find those people and then you give them that continuous feedback of here's what's working, here's what you can work on. When you create that culture, that improvement is just going to keep scaling. Like I can't believe some of the growth that I have seen in certain employees, like where they started and then like where they were a year in and now where they're at 5 years in. You're just like, wow, this is crazy. But it's not that crazy because they are driven. They are hungry. Like they're ready for more. Wrapping up, common pitfalls to avoid. Here's what you should not do. So number 1, lack of structure. They always say like children love structure, right? Children really like a routine. Even you're like, I beg to differ. Kids are like, we are wired to just want to know what's next, right? So providing a structured onboarding plan, telling them, here's what we're doing, here's what we expect. People want to know what's coming. So if you don't tell them what's coming and they're just every day like, now what, right? That lack of structure is not going to feel good to them. Number 2, do not overload your new hires. Asking them to do something too fast, kind of assuming like, okay, you're here. Great. You're going to run the meeting today. So we have a person that's going to be 4 days in, a leader, and I am gone tomorrow. So normally I would lead that meeting and she's just observing. Okay. 4 days in, should I let her take over? She is a leader. So she's a strong voice, like could come in and totally lead. Should I let her lead on day 4? Absolutely not. Okay. So I have the person that would normally come in if I were out of town that's going to lead. And this new person is going to watch that other leader step in. Don't overload them. They're nervous. They're brand new. They're still trying to figure out who you are. They don't know the answers. Okay. So be careful. Don't get so excited they're here and just give them a gazillion things to do, or they're going to just throw it all back on your plate and quit. The next thing not to do is neglect pre-onboarding. Okay. So engaging them before they start, right? Sending those welcome emails, providing those resources, introducing them to the team, whatever you can do we call it like the handoff, right? So, when somebody buys and then you need them to start using like the program or like start using your product, right? That's like the handoff. Well, in hiring, it's okay, we've hired them. How do we get them to actually like start working for us? That's the same area, that gray area. We want them to get engaged as fast as possible, and hiring them. And then, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And then you send the email out 2 weeks later, like, hi, welcome to the team. We start today. Here's the link, right? And they're like, what? I haven't even heard from you. Okay. So you want to nurture those new people until they're officially in and here. Next, a big mistake is ignoring technology. Okay. So we've talked about this: digital forums, online training modules, virtual orientations. Leverage this. Okay. Failing to set clear expectations is probably my number one on this list. If you do not clearly communicate the job responsibilities, the performance metrics, what you expect them to do at 30, 60, 90 days, right? You do not share that company culture, share that vision. I remember, oh man, somebody said to me 6 weeks in, and what do we sell again? And I was like, okay, I failed. He doesn't even know what we sell. Okay, yep, failure. This is me. This is not him. This is not him being dumb. This is me being a not great manager and not having a great onboarding system that he is unclear 6 weeks into his full-time job. That was me failing to really clean up his job descriptions, understanding what it is he needed to be, right, onboarded to. And then last, not giving enough time to actually let them come in and onboard. If you're thinking, like I just said, okay, she's here, great. Here's what you're going to do today. And she's like, what? You're having me do what? You want me to call who and tell them what? Like, what's happening, right? So make sure there's actually a difference between training and this person just taking over. So there are 3 phases to this. It's watch me do it, then we're going to do it together. And that's not like a day apart, you guys. Watch me might be like, for the first week, you're going to watch me. Maybe for the first 2 weeks, you're going to watch me, right? Then we're going to kind of tag team it. And after we tag team it for a little bit, then you're going to do it and I'm going to watch and I'm going to give you feedback. That is a whole lot more time and energy than most business owners are giving their new hires. And I'm telling you, if you are not doing a process like that and you're just like, great, perfect, you're here. Okay, do what you want with my social media. Nice, like chatting with you, fill me in when we get our first sale, right? That's going to be a pretty big error. So this was a long training, but it really is such an important piece. Effective onboarding, it makes or breaks what happens with our employees. Do they stay? Do they retain? First impression matters, right? You are setting the tone for, you want to work here. This is a great opportunity, right? You're going to love it here, versus them thinking, what did I get myself into, right? Number 2, personalization. Don't just speak to them like you speak to everybody else, right? What have you already learned from the interview? What have you learned from those first few things that you can now make different, make special, make unique inside of their orientation and moving forward, their welcome box, right? Number 3, culture integration, really getting them immersed in your culture, getting them familiar with the team, the dynamics, the communication norms, the leadership messages, right? Things like that. And then the 4th one is the pre-onboarding preparation, really making sure that their first day is so smooth and they feel so welcomed, right? Getting the new employees, like we actually post in our Slack channel, can everybody please welcome our newest hire, right? And we all like cheer for them. that makes people feel great, right? It helps them get prepared for their role. So implementing this system, right? This is going to really, really help you get more engaged, more committed people that want to stay, that want to help you in your mission, that are in alignment with your company values, that feel a belonging, which makes them want to stay even longer, right? Employee retention, it is one of the most important things to me as a business owner because one of the biggest things that can throw me off is thinking, okay, I've got a great day. I got a bunch of stuff to do. I want to get done. And then finding out this person just put in their notice. And then your whole day is just shot, right? How do we get them excited, staying, retaining? So here's what I would love for you to do. Comment below with your experiences or tips related to onboarding and retention. And if you could like and share this video, if you haven't subscribed already, for more content where I'm going to be talking about employee performance, their engagement, their retention. If you like this video, there is so many more coming your way. Thanks for listening.